What is up? What is good? How's it going? Welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time and I'm now back in the headspace, mindset, mood to do this again. For this video today, we're just going to be talking about what books I've read so far this year, and we're focusing mostly on like any novels, like actual novels that I've read, not graphic novels or manga, because there are a lot more of those than there are regular books. So this is to keep this video short because I don't want to be here forever or be editing forever. But we're going to be talking about the 4 actual like novels that I've read so far this year and my short thoughts on them. So let's get into it. I'm going to pull out my handy dandy clockwork reading journal, which I love, and it's super cute and fun. So the first book that I read to its completion this year was Daughter of the Deep by Rick Riordan. This is his latest book that he's published, and it's basically about a girl who finds out that she is a descendant of Captain Nemo from the story 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And so she finds out that she goes to this special school that's kind of based on the story, but finds out that it's all real, and now she has to go on this journey to find the mysterious island and all this craziness. And it is very whimsical, but with, science fiction-y way, which is really fun because I don't usually read science fiction. And also, this is the first book I've read by Rick Riordan that wasn't in the Half-Blood Chronicles universe. And so I was like skeptical, but like also excited because I'm like, ooh, this is different. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, which is good for like that means it's good, but it was like my favorite thing. Like, it wasn't life-changing or anything, but it was really fun. It was such a fun time reading it. I loved all of the characters and their vibes and like the camaraderie of the main character and all her friends, and then the people she meets and befriends was just so beautiful. And like, I cared about every single person that was like part of the story. I did have trouble remembering everything because it seemed like everything was moving super duper fast. It felt like we got started and things like escalated hecka quickly. I didn't have time to really get into like the normal world of the characters. We were just immediately thrown into this like extreme version of what their normal kind of vibe is, and with like all these like genius kids who have never been in the situation but have been training for like a situation like this their entire time at the HP Academy, like the Hardin Pencroft Academy, is the name of their school. And it was a very interesting thing to watch because they were all like filling these roles that adults would fill, but like they're all like 13, 14 years old. It was just a lot of fun seeing them all like captain a ship, be medical professionals, and like literally be their own little militia to defend themselves. And it was super cool. But the coolest part, in my opinion, was seeing all of the technology that Captain Nemo had invented and how like it played a part in the story and what the importance of it was, and like how excited all the characters were about it and how far they're like a lot of them were willing to go to get their hands on it. It was craziness. There's a lot happening. Also, I predicted something to happen in it. Obviously, it's a middle grade, so it's not that hard it shouldn't be that hard for an adult to predict certain things that's going to happen, but I was very proud that I was correct, but also sad that I was correct. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. 3 out of 5 stars. Definitely would read it again. Definitely want to read it again. And honestly might bump it up to like 3.5 out of 5 stars because it made me want to go and read the books that it was based on, which are 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and The Mysterious Island. It's always good to I think to read some classics every once in a while, which I don't do very often. I don't remember the last time I read a classic and enjoyed it. So actually, I lied. I have one in this video coming up. So the next book that I started and completed was one that I read literally within 24 hours. Technically, I started it on one day and ended it on the next day, but like I would have finished it then if I hadn't started so late. It was Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and I'm sure everyone knows what this book is at this point. And like, It's a classic science fiction book. It's about books. It's about book burning. It's a dystopia. It's just like a book that I've always been fascinated with the premise of, because I love reading books about books. I love reading books about worlds where reading isn't like allowed for some reason, and like how there are rebels who are fighting to do this, like who are fighting to read and have the joy of reading and spread the like literacy and stuff like that. I love stories like that, and this is like the OG story about that premise. But yeah, it's basically about this man who is a firefighter, but in this society, firefighters don't put out fires, they start them, and they start fires at houses where people have been found guilty of owning and reading books, which is, you know, illegal in this world. And so we follow him as he starts to want to read and like want to learn about reading and what it is and all these different things, and how it like turns his world upside down. I really enjoyed this book and almost immediately started reading it again after I finished it, because it just like affected me pretty much exactly how I thought it would. It got me thinking and about the importance of reading, especially in this world where, in our like real life world, they're banning a bunch of books for seemingly no reason or very dumb reasons. And it was like a mirror reflection, like this is where we're at, this is the extreme that we seem to be heading toward. And I just thought it was very interesting to think about, and especially as someone like, you know, like this is a channel like I'm Books and Good Vibes. I love books, as you can see. Like if I lived in a world where reading wasn't allowed and like remembered when reading was allowed, it would destroy me like it did like one of the main side characters in the story, like eating you alive. Like your entire life pretty much revolved around books, and now it's illegal. That's rough, especially since books for a lot of us is like an escape from the real world, and like it just helps us to relax and imagine and, you know, innovate. For that like big part of us to be taken away, it's not great. Another factor that really fascinated me about the book was the science. They had like walls, like the walls in the houses were TV, so like the people could be like in the show or whatever, and they had scripts and all this stuff, and that was very interesting. And they also had this thing called the Hound. It's like robotic creature that they would give the DNA of certain people to, so that the Hound could hunt them down and kill them, because, you know, they're criminals. But just the way that the authors talked about it, even though it wasn't actually alive, it kind of acted like it, and it just made it a lot more ominous and scary, because of the fact it's like this is obviously not a thing that has its own sentience or has its own will, but the way it was reacting to the main character, it made it like very scary. Like it was a beast that was just wanting to attack just because it could. It was just wild. It was super fun. My only gripe about it is that it kind of gave me whiplash at moments. Like I think next time I read it, I need to sit down with it physically, because the entirety of this book takes place over a week. Like there's this whole topsy-turvy world-turning process that the main character goes through within a week, which, like, you know, it happens. Stuff happens quickly sometimes, but it was just like a lot, and I felt like I missed some things, especially at the end. Like I don't think I missed anything at the end. I just didn't expect what happened at the end. And that's probably my fault for putting that whole thing in the back burner. But I guess maybe that's what the author wanted. They wanted you to like have this knowledge of what this was, and then all of a sudden literally drop this on you, and you're like, whoa, what? And remember how like this one moment is just a small part of what's going on in this big world, and it was very interesting. Maybe that's not a gripe. Maybe that was just me. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna go and read this again. I rated this one 3 out of 5 stars as well, but I think I might bump this one up to 4 because of how like much it gets me thinking. Whenever I think about it, it makes me think of both the book and the real world, which is something I don't normally do with books because I, like to separate books from reality most of the time. But yeah, it's just a very thought-provoking story, and I definitely need to read more Ray Bradbury's books, and honestly just find my physical copy of this book so I can highlight and annotate into it and have a great time. And the next book that I started and finished is called The Alchemist by Michael Scott. This one is one that that my friend recommended to me like years ago. I started reading and then completely forgot about, and because I got bored reading it. But then recently he asked if I wanted to be in this little book club with him and one of his other friends. And I was like, sure. And this is the book that he wanted me to read, and it was okay. I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. I was pretty bored for most of it, mostly because I didn't really like the writing style of this one. Like, it felt like it was over explaining a lot of things. It gave me a very clear picture of like settings and stuff like that, what was happening a lot of the time, but I also felt like it was like explaining things to me like I was a child, even though this is like a YA fantasy, like YA urban fantasy story. And basically the premise of it is that Nicholas Flamel, the legendary alchemist, he and his wife Perenelle, they are immortal due to the Philosopher's Stone and like magic they got from this book called the Codex, or the Book of Abraham, I think is what they call it. And they're trying to protect it from evil, like god-like people called the Elders, the Elder race, like the bad guys side of the Elder race, and another immortal who wants to, take it, become immortal forever, help the Elder race become rulers again and get rid of humans. It's a whole process. There's also these twins who are apparently the twins of prophecy in the story, and it's great. The premise is really cool, but I feel like the execution, I don't know, it was okay. It wasn't the worst thing I've read. It was nowhere near the best thing I've read either. Like I said, I didn't like the writing style. I liked most of the characters. They were interesting, but one of the twins, John, I believe his name is, I didn't like him. I didn't like him at all. From the beginning to the end, he was annoying and dumb, and like he never stopped. Like, he was always saying stuff he shouldn't have been saying, getting himself into trouble. He didn't want to listen, even when we were like reading kind of from his point of view. He wasn't making any effing sense. It was just freaking annoying, and he kind of ruined it because, he was always there because he's a main character, and he just was really dumb. In conclusion, I don't have a lot to say about this one because I didn't like it that much, but I didn't hate it either. I didn't hate it enough to not continue. I'm going to continue the story, reading it with my friends. And yeah, hopefully John gets a better personality. The last book that I read and finished this year so far was the Illuminae, which is the first book in the Illuminae Files series by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This one, it was like, I've had this book for years and I've wanted to read it for years, but I think something that deterred me from it was how, one, it was just big and chunky. Two, for me to read it, I personally needed to be sitting down with the physical book and the audiobook going to get the best experience with it. And two, it's just way outside of my reading genre. Like, usually I'm reading urban fantasy, contemporary romance, contemporary fiction, stuff like that for the most part, and then fairy tale retellings. But this is like a full-on sci-fi, futuristic adventure story, with war and disease and space travel, and it's a whole thing. And it was a great time. I had so much fun. It was so intense. There's so much going on. Basically, the premise of it is that it's about this illegal mining colony on a planet that gets attacked by a rival company's armada of ships, and they have to escape into space to find help like across the galaxy and stuff like that, while the remaining of this enemy armada is chasing them, trying to destroy them so they can't tell everyone what happened. And there's a whole bunch of craziness that ensues. There's a lot of hacking involved. There's a lot of, like, there's a bit of romance, there's heartache, there's death, there's an AI, and we know how AI goes in any story at this point. And it's just so much going on, but it's like, it's not confusing. Like, it's a chunky book, it's a thick book, and it's all written in like multimedia, like emails, personnel files, instant messages, all this stuff. But when I was reading it and because I was listening to it on audiobook as well, as a full cast of characters, everyone had a voice, and it was just so interesting. It was so cool, and it was so much fun to read. And I'm definitely gonna like get the next, like the other 2 books, and I think there's like a novella book for it as well. I'm gonna get those. I'm gonna listen to those. I have to get them physically. I don't want to read them like as an ebook or anything. I want them because they're so pretty to look at. Like, let me just show you. Like, this is Illuminated. This is it with its dust jacket on. It is stunning, so pretty. But then you take off the dust jacket, and it's like redacted files and highlighted and stuff like that with notes. It's one of the coolest covers I've ever seen. It's like, this is one of my favorite books just to look at, and I need the other ones in hardcover just like this. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars as well. Again, I've been giving a lot of books 3 out of 5 stars these days. I think I'm getting more strict with my standards of reading, which I like personally. I don't know, I think 3 is just my safe number. Like, I like the book. Like, I didn't dislike it, but I like it. But it didn't, like, it's not like one of my new favorite books or anything like that. Like, all of the like Percy Jackson, Camp Half-Blood, like Chronicle books, they have at least 4 stars. All of them. Even Sea of Monsters, which is my least favorite of all of them, but upon rereads, it has been bumped up from like 3 stars. But like, these books lately, I've just been like reading and I've been enjoying them, but they haven't like done anything, given me like my new favorite characters or anything like that. I guess technically I could discuss like my reading Six of Crows. That one I read, I think, earlier this year as well. Let me look at my journal. No, I read that one like at the end of last year, which is why it's not here, but I gave that one 5 stars because like, I was obsessed with the story, the premise, loved how it was executed and written, loved the audiobook, loved pretty much all the characters. It was just a lot of fun. These, like the books I mentioned in this video, didn't do all of that for me. Like, they were fun to read for the most part, but they didn't have that wow factor that like makes me obsessed with and want to tell everyone about it, you know? That is it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed and want to see my pretty face again, please like and subscribe. If you have read any of the books that I talked about in this video and want to talk about it with me, get in the comments. If you have any book recommendations, again, get in the comments. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.